I hope everyone's doing well and welcome back to another weekly outlook. So cool. Let's get straight into it. We are about mid-month, right? And as we can see for September's candle, it's not a massive candle. We've taken the previous monthly low. We expected a bearish expansion that hasn't exactly happened yet. What we saw in August was a sweep of the previous candle, of July's candle, and then a strong move down. So we believe July's candle, this up close candle, to be a bearish order block, and we expect to see continuation to the downside. Now that continuation, I believe, is still on the board. It's not something that needs to be written off. But then we come down to the weekly and we see this very, very horrible chart, right? Where do we go from here? Take one more zoom in on the daily, and what we see is that this is essentially a very, very large consolidation. And as you guys know from the very beginning of us making weekly outlooks, when we have a consolidation, we know it's liquidity being engineered in anticipation for something, typically, right? On the higher time frames, when we see consolidation, we have to think, what's coming up soon that's probably causing that consolidation, right? Now, of course, the big one that I believe everybody should know and is expecting is this FOMC over here, right? On Wednesday this week, we have a big interest rate decision. The odds for an interest rate cut are very, very high. People are expecting either a 25-point cut or a 50-point cut. Either way, bearish for the dollar, right? If we get that cut in, it is what we're expecting. It is what I expect to see, right? Past that, we have to note CPI for the CAD on the Tuesday. We also have retail sales for the dollar. And on the Thursday, we have the interest rate decision for the pound as well. It's going to be one to watch for unemployment claims and also the interest rate decision for the Japanese yen on the Friday. Right, some big movers this week for the market in general. So cool. So what do we really expect from here? What can we sort of anticipate from price? Now, it's a tough one, right? Technically, how far are we sort of expecting price to go? How far do we think price will push up in terms of going higher? Now, an easy one is that we haven't had a previous weekly sweep in how many weeks is that? Since this week, around mid-August, so almost a month ago. So it would be very sensible to assume that this week opens and sweeps this previous weekly high. It's a very small candle. It's a very achievable target to sweep here and then potentially consider lower prices. Can we push all the way above this sort of engineered trend line? Or we come down to the daily, can we essentially push above this consolidation? I wouldn't write it off, right? I think it's a sort of scenario where I'm not really expecting anything for the first half of the week in terms of trades. I'm not really expecting it to, give us anything major by any means. So rather, what we sort of just want to see is, okay, previous weekly high gone. Is price kicking down yet or not? Or previous weekly high gone, but price wants to carry on pushing up. So then we assume that it will head for this buy side and potentially these targets as well before the real expansion downwards is what we want to see alongside the rate cut. So I believe, yep. So last week, bond yields gave us a very, very nice kick down. We built a nice weekly range. Really wouldn't surprise me if we sort of just get a quick sweep back into this. We may not necessarily reach premium prices, but I would expect the previous weekly high to get swept here into this weekly fair value gap. And similar to DXY, continuation downwards is what I'd be expecting on this chart as well. Go over to Euro GBP. Last week we said we hit the sort of premium of the range and now we're just sitting towards the equilibrium. There's nothing major to go off of in terms of higher or lower prices. This week we do have that interest rate decision for the pound. I'll be watching that carefully. It's on the Thursday, right? And that can definitely give us a bit of a kick on this. It is a very, very sideways pair, similar to DXY at the moment. Until we get that sort of significant news to push it one way or the other, there's not much we can do in terms of reading it. Start off with USDCAD. So we actually had a position in this that got stopped out from this high to this low. If we're going to 4 hours, a bit clearer. You guys can see, it was a nice range created by news. Very, very nice range. You would expected this high to hold. But what's happened is CAD has essentially, or rather what we need is the CAD to show strength and the dollar to show weakness. But we've seen the CAD show weakness as well. And the dollar showing strength to an extent by sort of just consolidating or not really moving essentially, right? And what's happened is we've traded back into this range. So in terms of trading opportunities, what can we do? Now, an easy one to do, if you're confident, is you're essentially in or around the weekly OTE. So if you're in a position to take this on an account where you can hold it, you could just hit it around the 0.705 and, wait for these sort of market maker model targets. This is a lot of liquidity being engineered, and I do think at some point CAD catches up. Now, you have to bear in mind, if you do hit this, it's a very sort of big long shot. You're very safe in terms of if price starts going this way, you can close out. You're not going to take a major loss, but you may also be holding for a good little while, right? Just something to bear in mind. Me personally, I'm not too keen on hitting it. What I would like to see, ideally, is, price give us a kick similar to this. If we can get a kick like this, a retracement, and then hit that, you can essentially take the same setup with an extra confirmation and actually get out more RR, right? Better risk to reward ratio by just waiting a bit longer and, hitting it a bit later for a better entry. So I'm a bit divided. If you really don't have the patience, you don't want to wait, it's not in a bad spot to hit. Honestly, I do think USDCAD will trade low. But of course, if you're willing to wait, if you want that better entry, then that's a smart option. USD franc. Not much to go off. Very, very choppy pair. Lack of sweeps. We come on the daily. We see very consolidated. Had a kick down. This isn't a great place, in my opinion, to enter, right? Especially with the coming week, it could just push up very quickly. Sweep some liquidity here. It's a lot of built-up liquidity with no sweep, and then push lower. Again, if this gives us a second leg, right, it kicks first, then the retracement, then that makes us a lot more confident in taking the setup, and then, hopefully pushing for this target and even lower past that. USDJPY. Big consolidation. Opinion has not changed, but it could be changing this week depending on how the news comes out on the Friday. Is all I'll say. There's not much to work with at the moment, but if we get a big kick down from here, we have swept the high of the consolidation. Bear in mind, right? I know this is all very consolidated, but technically we've swept all the internal buy side liquidity here. We haven't got that displacement done. If that displacement was to come now, it would essentially be a textbook range and reversal being built. Gold not giving people much to work with. What with the bombing in Qatar, a lot of you guys might have heard of this week, definitely led to further expansion. Now, this candle is not as big. It's part of the new range being built. When we get candles that aren't as big, it allows for the opportunity of a previous candle sweep. So I would definitely be watching for a previous weekly low sweep into this zone. And that may offer, or rather move sort of in line with this daily OTE that's on the cards. And we may see something like a move into this discount, sweeping the previous weekly low, and then from there, the move higher to then continue higher for now. So what we said last time for S&P, after we hit this order block again, respect today, we knew we can carry on expanding. We had that weekly closure. I said the odds are from here we carry on higher. We wanted to see that week expand. The week has expanded. It's carried on moving away. And what we can potentially work with this coming week now is going from this current mid low to where the current high is placed, and seeing if a retracement is offered for any of you traders on the S&P. But for the time being, it may just continue building the range, especially this week. If we get that rate cut, it might be a tough catch in terms of going long. It may just go without us. And lastly, Bitcoin, very, very nice move. Week's almost done, closes in about 5 hours. If you guys recall, what we said was this week, this specific candle had swept the previous weekly candle in the discount. We knew there was potentially room to go lower, but from here, this could really be the reverse for the market maker buy model as well if price gives us a good kick. Now, it's given us a good kick. What we can also note is that this is the sort of initial consolidation, manipulation into a discount, and a move back up. What we want to see is price, or rather the candle, close around here inside the fair value gap, rather than it sort of, give us a big move away, and then it's going to be a bearish respect, and then we might get another sweep. I think that won't be the scenario. I do think we will trade through this rate cut this week. Again, We're very confident on it. We're not really taking much action before, so if we do end up being wrong, it's not going to hurt us just yet. But hopefully when that comes through, that will also propel price higher on Bitcoin, and we can see this 4-hour market maker buy model play out. But yeah, guys, that is it for the weekly outlook. As usual, any questions at all, anything I can help with, please just drop me a message.